A familiar war narrative is being challenged, not from the battlefield, but from the Kremlin podium. As peace talks inch forward, Moscow says realities on the ground are shifting faster than diplomacy. Ukrainian losses, Western pressure, and European leaders facing political consequences at home. In this moment, Russia says the next phase of the conflict is already taking shape. A blunt message from Moscow. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov says Europe's current leaders will face difficult elections ahead. Consequences, he argues, of policies chosen years earlier. They will have to come to terms with the leaders they elected, Peskov says, framing public dissatisfaction as inevitable fallout from the Ukraine war. Peskov points to the battlefield. Ukraine is losing land and will continue to lose it, he says. Tomorrow, he adds, will look different from today. The Kremlin insists that military realities are shifting daily, and that any peace framework must acknowledge those changes.
Спикер Совета Федерации Валентина Матвиенко считает, что после решения ЕС о выделении Киеву кредитов в 90 миллиардов евро из европейской казны, их люди снесут. По ее словам, европейцы уже понимают, в какую авантюру их втянули на Украине. А как считают в Кремле, насколько высок градус недовольства происходящим у жителей Европы? И может ли это недовольство привести к тому, что руководство ЕС, как выразилась Матвиенко, снесут обычные европейские налогоплательщики?
То, что есть серьезное недовольство тем, что все больше и больше руководителей ЕС, которые жаждут продолжения войны, залезают в карман своих налогоплательщиков, это очевидно. Это очевидно, и это недовольство растет. Насколько европейские граждане могут кого-то снести до следующих выборов, вряд ли у них есть такие права. Поэтому им, конечно же, придется мириться с теми руководителями, которых они выбрали в прошлый раз. Но то, что на следующих выборах им всем будет очень нелегко, это очевидно.
Буквально только что появилось заявление Владимира Зеленского о том, что России нужно готовить план «Б». Есть ли какой-то комментарий Кремля на эту тему?
Нет, я не понимаю, что имеется в виду. Если вы можете это разъяснить, может быть, мы что-то и можем.
Да, там был комментарий, его, собственно говоря, спросили о том, есть ли план «Б» по прекращению военного конфликта, и он, собственно, заявил, что, на его взгляд, России нужно думать о плане «Б» именно о прекращении военного конфликта.
Россия думает о прекращении военного конфликта в контексте достижения своих целей. Второе. Здесь, наверное, уместным было бы вспомнить вчерашнее неоднократное заявление президента Соединенных Штатов Америки Дональда Трампа, который, по всей видимости, обращаясь к украинским собеседникам, напомнил, что Украина теряет землю и будет их терять дальше. И завтра ситуация будет отличаться от той ситуации, которая сегодня. Вот это план и А, и Б, и С.
Moscow now agrees with Washington's assessment that negotiations are nearing a decisive phase. Peskov says U.S. President Donald Trump is certainly correct in stating that peace talks are close to completion, though Russia says key details remain undisclosed. Trump hosted Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky in Miami, describing a proposed deal as 95% ready. Peskov confirms Vladimir Putin has yet to receive a full briefing, but says a call between the two leaders is expected soon. While Zelensky has spoken publicly of a 20-point plan, the Kremlin is staying silent. Moscow says it will not comment on specifics of U.S. mediation, emphasizing discretion over disclosure at this stage of talks. Peskov rejects claims that Russia has no alternative but war. He says Moscow is seeking to suspend the conflict, but only in a way that meets its stated objectives. Russian officials continued to cite NATO expansion and Ukraine's domestic policies as root causes of the crisis.
Yesterday, Yuri Viktorovich Ushakov announced that President Putin and President Trump had come to an agreement to hold another meeting. To promptly call each other back after the Trump and Zelensky meeting, please tell me, when will this call happen today? Can we expect it?
We will let you know at the earliest opportunity.
How does the Kremlin evaluate the negotiations that were held in Florida?
We don't know how those discussions proceeded, so we are unable to evaluate them. A question was just asked, stating that following these discussions, the two presidents, I am referring to the President of Russia and the President of the United States, have agreed to speak again by phone. That's when we will receive the information.
What is the Kremlin's stance on the idea of establishing a free economic zone in the territory of Donbas, currently controlled by Ukrainian forces? And what is the Kremlin's position regarding the concept of joint management for the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant?
We are currently of the opinion that it would not be expedient to discuss yet comments on individual points, public comments, the fact that there is serious dissatisfaction.
Due to the fact that it's becoming more and more
EU leaders who are eager for the war to continue are reaching deep into the taxpayers' pockets. It's quite clear. It's quite clear. And this discontent is steadily growing. To what extent can European citizens actually remove someone from power before the next elections? It's highly unlikely they possess such legal rights. It's highly unlikely they possess such legal rights. Therefore, they will, without a doubt, simply have to come to terms with the situation. They will inevitably have to tolerate those very leaders whom they themselves chose and elected during the previous election cycle. But it's perfectly clear that in the next elections, they will all have a very hard time.
Could you please clarify the words of Yuri Ushakov, who said yesterday that for the final cessation of hostilities, Kyiv needs a responsible political decision in line with the work being done on the Russian-American track, and this decision concerns Donbas, taking into account the developing situation on the fronts? What kind of decision is this regarding Donbas? Can you explain this? Is this a complete transfer of control over Donbas territories?
Of course, it's leaving.
Or something else.
The armed forces of the regime must be withdrawn from Donbas beyond the administrative boundaries of the region.
But does this only apply to Donbas, or are we also talking about the Kherson region and Zaporizhzhia as well?
I have already stated here that we will not be fully and entirely commenting on or entering into a public discussion regarding the specific individual provisions.
Following yesterday's negotiations, reports emerged in the American media about a potential phone conversation between Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky. We recall that the Russian side has consistently stated that negotiating groups must first work before any direct dialogue can take place. What is the current position? Is such a conversation, such a meeting possible at all?
Now, that kind of talk is out of the question.
A statement has emerged from Vladimir Zelensky indicating that Russia needs to prepare Plan B.
Has the Kremlin offered any comment on this particular matter? He was in fact specifically asked whether there was a Plan B for bringing an end to the ongoing military conflict. And he actually stated that from his perspective, Russia ought to be considering Plan D precisely concerning the cessation of the military conflict.
Russia is contemplating the termination of the military conflict in the context of achieving its strategic objectives. Second, it would likely be quite pertinent at this point to recall the repeated declarations made just yesterday by the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, who, it would seem, when speaking to his Ukrainian counterparts, made it clear that Ukraine is currently losing its territory and will inevitably continue to lose even more. And tomorrow the situation will be quite different from the situation that we have today. This is the plan, including A, B, and C.
Trump also said that the world has become significantly closer and negotiations are in their final stage. Does the Kremlin agree with such an assessment?
Of course. After his meeting with Trump, Zelensky stated that the peace plan has been agreed upon by approximately 90%. Considering that before these negotiations, Trump called President Putin, could you please clarify which specific option is truly meant? Is it the one that Witkoff and Kushner brought to Moscow in early December, which was discussed for several hours in the Kremlin, or the one Zelensky unveiled after his meeting with the Europeans? Which peace plan are we now closer to?
At the moment, we don't deem it necessary to elaborate.
Was the question of a Christmas truce for January 7th discussed during the telephone conversation between Presidents Putin and Trump?
No.